don't think that AI is ever going to replace the joy that you and I experience going to a race.
Yep.
And I don't think that, AI will have a product that like completely, ever does anything like the New York City Marathon, where like we would completely overhaul like the New York City Marathon because AI is there. And I actually really like that about the industry. That said, I do think that there are, just like any tool, I think that we can leverage AI to help organizers host really great events.
Hey listeners, in the next episode of Tech in 26.2 Pod, I sit down with Zack Isaacs, co-founder of a modern event registration platform called Movement. He started Movement along with co-founder Taylor Paliska over a bike ride. It's a fascinating story. And we also chat about what are the frictions he sees or he has seen as he talked to a lot of event organizers over a period of time before he started Movement. What are the different frictions are in the platforms available in the market today, and what he set out to solve for the event organizers in Movement platform. We also talked about the business model that he has with Movement, especially the pricing structure, along with how he sees the role of AI can impact the event registration industry as a whole. I am sure you'll enjoy this episode, and if you do, don't forget to subscribe, like, or share this pod. Thanks for listening. Welcome, Zack, to the 26.2 Pod. Really excited to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Great. For our audience, Zack is the co-founder and CEO of an event registration platform called Movement, based in West Coast. Right now, I think you're supporting primarily the US, but I think you are rethinking the event registration, especially in athletic events. So I'm really curious to understand more about Movement and how you're envisioning the future. So maybe we can start with a quick overview of what is Movement.
Sure. So thanks so much for having me. Movement is a free platform for endurance athletic events. And so we make it super easy for organizers to create beautiful event pages. We handle all of their signups. We give them all the tools they need to host a successful event, like emailing tools and volunteer management. And then we work with their timer to handle the results. And so Movement is completely free for organizers. And we're just like a modern and easy to use event management platform. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I know you're reimagining this event registration platform as a whole. So maybe you can go a little bit back. I know Movement is fairly new in the industry. So if you can take us back to the founding story, how did Movement started? I know you have a background running engineering at Strava, so it would be good to see how your experience in endurance sports and being in Strava led to founding Movement.
Yeah, so bicycles have always been a passion of mine, and it is literally like from the beginning of my identity. I've always been involved with bikes. So my parents actually met on a group ride in Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow.
And my entire career has been in the bicycling industry. So growing up, I worked at bike shops. I also worked for a local pro cycling team called the United Healthcare Pro Cycling Team, which was my first time I'd ever experienced any web development. And then I spent a summer in support at Strava when I was in college. And I wasn't studying computer science, but from the moment I got to Strava, I realized immediately that I wanted to become a software engineer at Strava. And so after that summer in support, I started taking computer science classes and cobbled together what I needed to know to become an engineer at Strava. And I was in engineering at Strava for many years. And I was fortunate enough to get to start Strava's API team. And for those who are less technical, what that meant was that my boss and I were going to companies like Peloton and Zwift and Garmin and Wahoo, and we were literally building the systems they use to upload photos and these foundational things at Strava. And so that was an incredible experience. But throughout my time as an athlete and throughout my time at Strava, I always felt like the event experience wasn't quite as good as it could be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to, for example, find and sign up for events. It's hard to find communications from the event organizer to like actually understand when you need to be places. And it's like
Yeah.
when you need to be at the start line. And then results are also often in a vacuum. And so it's hard to actually associate results with, activities and stuff like that. And so I just felt like there was an opportunity to serve the event ecosystem. And so I started interviewing organizers to understand the problem space, and the organizer persona just resonated with me deeply because you have to understand doing well at events and being an athlete is really sexy, but actually organizing events is not sexy. It's a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and there's just something that connected with me about this group of people who put in all of this work behind the scenes so that we as athletes can have a good time. And I just really wanted to serve them and build a product for organizers that also does a great job for athletes. And we've been running at that problem ever since.
Oh, wow. I'm just curious, like, you talk to a lot of organizers. It's like, what would be like, number of organizers, or like you probably found the pain points talking to them. Like I was thinking of like, what would be the scale that you try to figure out if there is a real problem or not?
Yeah, I think that there are some common threads among organizers, but it's also it varies on a case-by-case basis. I would say that there are a few commonalities. The biggest one is that organizers just do not like the way that their events appear on the existing platforms. So a lot of the existing platforms are, built a long time ago. And so the events just do not look the way that they want them to. They do not look like modern event pages. And then, on the actual payment business side, there are things like big delays between when you actually get a registration and are paid out for that registration that modern payment infrastructure can solve. And so we do things like pay out the event organizer every single day so that they don't have to front the costs for their event, stuff like that.
Right. Oh, wow. That's super cool. So now you have talked to the organizers, you understand some of the pain points, and how did it led to starting Movement?
Yeah, so I am an engineer, and so I found Taylor through my local bicycling community. Taylor is my co-founder and our head of design. And last year we ended up, or actually a couple years ago at this point, we ended up like we knew who each other were, but we weren't really close friends yet. And we ended up catching up on a bike ride just by happenstance, and a 1 hour ride turned into a 5 hour ride. And I knew from that moment that I wanted to work with Taylor. And so that was how we got connected, just from, we knew who each other were from our local group ride at the Port of Oakland. And then, we got along, and a 1 hour ride turns into a 5 hour ride. And that's the magic of sport,
Oh, wow. So your founding story is starting a company over a bike ride. Is that kind of
Totally. That is actually the case. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's pretty fascinating. Great. So you mentioned a couple of the friction points that you saw as you talked to the organizers. Now, how did you plan to, I know in one use case you mentioned that payout every day, which is probably a big for organizers. They can see, because they incur a lot of cost before the actual event happens, that you're solving that. What are the other frictions that you saw with these use cases that you talked to the organizers that you're planning to solve with Movement, or you already have solved?
Yeah, sure. So I think that the biggest one is just getting as many registrations and donations to the event as possible. And so, if your event sells out, then, more power to you. And, you have an incredible event. But for most organizers, every single registration and donation makes a huge difference to their bottom line. And their ability to, assist and fund whatever donation organization they care about. And so, we have been able, through really easy sign-up flows and through modern and engaging event pages to just make a world-class event experience that gets people stoked on events.
Mhm.
And, you know, we're really grateful to have had early traction and positive feedback from our event organizers, because we're just able to get them more registrations and donations through really easy sign-up flows and beautiful event pages.
Oh, great. And are you helping them also with the reach out to attract more registrations? Or is it some use case you're
Yeah, it's a
still
great
solving?
question. So, you know, helping them with sort of like off-platform discovery and
Yeah.
just helping organizers more generally is definitely something that we are planning to do longer term. And so, you know, event registrations are, and just nailing the sort of bounds between event registration through event setup to results is just where we start. But we want to be as helpful as possible to organizers. And so in the future, that might mean, you know, making it easier for organizers to find a timer or to get t-shirts or any of the million things they need to actually hold a successful event.
Right.
Because, you know, if you talk to an organizer and you ask them, like, how did you figure out how to hold an event?
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's just that they had a mentor or
Oh,
they
okay.
helped with an event before. And if we can sort of provide that same level of guidance and, I don't know if mentorship's the right word, but just support,
Yeah.
then, you know, we think that we can make event organizers' lives, or we hope we can make their lives easier
Mhm.
and, you know, help them run successful businesses.
Oh, wow. No, that's great. I do see that you solve for kind of four personas or four use cases. One is definitely the organizers you just touched on.
Mhm,
And the second group of persona that you support are the timers
mhm.
and athletes, obviously, and I think some of the brands too in the endurance sports. Like maybe onto a little bit on then how you're supporting those personas.
Yeah, sure. So on the athlete side, we're just making it super easy to sign up. And so, you know, our app is mobile first. And so it's super easy to use Apple Pay, or if you've ever paid for anything with Stripe, we send you a text message and you know, you can sign up within 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Um, you know, like moving forward, I do think that there's an opportunity, especially given my background and interests with
Yeah.
APIs and integrations. I think that we are going to see a connection on the athlete side between events and results and activities, because it just makes no sense to me that there is no connection between
Right.
results
Right.
and activities on a platform like Strava. Like,
Hmm.
you know, everyone goes through this janky flow of figuring out what their results were on Athlinks or on Run Sign Up, and then like manually talking about it on Strava,
Yeah.
and that would be automatic. And so,
Right.
you know, we're not building that right this second, but that is definitely the type of thing that we want to do.
Hmm.
You know, on the brand side, you know, we've been working with brands like Tracksmith. We've also helped Hoka with some of their local events, and been working with a bunch of brands actually. And
Hmm.
what what these brands are trying to do is to put themselves, you know, authentically at the center of their, you know, their users' athletic communities. And
I
so
see.
I think that that is like a strategy that brands are using to differentiate themselves
Hmm.
from each other.
Yeah.
But you also have to remember that like brands have a very different business model than organizers. And so
Right.
what a company like Tracksmith cares about is, you know, selling clothes. And that's how they're going to make their money. They're not going
Hmm.
to make, you know, all their money from just putting on events. And
Right.
so what we can do for a company like Tracksmith is we actually have a very advanced, really cool API that we built. And
Hmm.
so we can do things like send all of the participant information when you sign up to Tracksmith, and then Tracksmith actually puts uses that webhook and that information to send their own emails. So you know, they send you your confirmation email. That's why it looks like a branded Tracksmith email. And then they
Hmm.
can, you know, upsell you on clothes and do all the stuff they need to do that they're really good at through their native CRM. So
Hmm.
you know, like a brand like Tracksmith is almost like a tech company. And so it's a very different use case than just like
Yeah.
a mom and pop organizer.
Right.
And the way we solve for the needs of both of those use cases is different. But yeah.
Yeah. So talking about brand support, and you did a little bit on the business model of the clients that you support or the event organizers. One thing I noticed on your pricing strategy that you have at Movement, it is transaction based
Mhm.
versus you can easily call it as a platform as a SaaS product too, but you didn't go into the traditional SaaS offerings like in a pay pump based revenue model, but you decided to be on transaction based. I was maybe curious to see how did you choose that path versus a conventional SaaS platform way of revenue model.
Yeah, I mean, I did a bunch of industry research before landing on that business model. And like you said, there are companies like Eventbrite that do subscriptions. And then
Yeah,
I just listened to your interview, which was great with Bob, who is
yeah,
a legend in the industry from Run Sign Up.
yeah,
And I decided that it made more sense to go with the transaction-based model because it enables our product to stay free for organizers so that there's no friction for organizers to create
right.
events with us. And then I don't want to charge anything, and I do want to support community events. And
Mhm.
so we don't charge anything for community events, which we would have to if we were doing a subscription. And the third reason is just that we only make money like when people are paying the event organizer. And
Right.
so we're only monetizing when we actually add value to your business. And that just feels like a fair way to do business. And so that's how we landed on it.
Okay, that's great. And I had a great chat with Bob on the same topic, and I think his rationale was similar lines as well. That you want to add value to get
Yeah.
paid, and it's not a lot of ask 6% because um, you have to also pay out the other providers that you're transactioning with, right? So I don't know 2%, 3%. So it's you giving a very small fraction of that percentage that you're charging the athletes as such. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we
Um,
actually matched. We I don't mind telling you, we matched Run Signups pricing for merchandise and registrations, and so our standard fee is just $1 plus 6%, just like Run Sign Up.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good. Like, that's what I think I saw on the website to call it out on the website as well. One thing on the athletic side that you support, I was really happy to see that what you're doing in terms of the Strava. So, a lot of athletes, I'm a runner, so I use Strava extensively. And, sometimes when you go to a new place, if you have a path already, that's great,
Yeah,
because that's how I explore a new city. I first
yeah,
thing go out in the morning. I know the
that's
city
awesome.
before I even wake up. My family's up. I know where to go. So you have the proven Strava pass, and I see that you are integrating that with even organizers can use it. Especially, you have integrated. That I think you build the API when you're at Strava. So how is adding value to the organizers? Have you seen that? Because I think it's a value add for athletes for sure.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that it adds value to organizers because like through adding value to athletes. And I don't mean to be like convoluted there, but if
Yeah,
athletes know what the course is and can get excited about it through having a Strava route as your course map, then that's
yeah,
going to lead to more registrations. And so we have seen that pretty much every single event organizer that we work with has either used that Strava integration or, we have other organizers who have wanted their maps on all trails or ride with GPS, and we support that too. But just it sounds so simple, but just telling people what to
yeah,
expect and where they're going to need to go gets them excited about the race, and
yeah.
we're probably less fearful about being able to complete it.
Yeah. No, I can tell you, and I'm sure you talk to a lot of athletes too, right? Every time I sign up for a new race, I look to their race course and the elevation
Yeah,
map they usually publish, and it's a PDF format. Like there's nothing you
yeah,
can go double click on it and see what's actually in there. And if you can see the whole visualize the map through Strava map, that's great. It
yeah.
solves so much friction there too for athletes. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I really like that feature. Yeah, when you basically connect your Strava account to
Yeah.
Movement, we pull in every route you've ever saved or created. And
Mhm.
then I actually joke with my Strava friends that it's easier to find a Strava route on Movement than on Strava
Oh,
because
really?
we just enable you to search for the route by name. I mean, I'm
Uh,
kind of being tongue in cheek, but yeah, you can just search for the route by name and then add it as a course map. And
oh,
there's no
okay.
code or anything required. We just make it super easy. And so, yeah, I really like that feature, and I'm really glad that you like it too.
And now I'm sure it will be a lot of value add for a lot of runners who are going for a race. You don't know the course. And I know event organizers do a lot to publish it, send a newsletter. Hey, this is a course map, elevation
Yeah.
map, but it's still kind of static. It's not real
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
And that actually has huge repercussions, especially on trail and then like any course where
Yes.
it might
Yes.
have to change.
Hmm.
Because if you are just downloading a GPX file or, creating your own version of that PDF that you
Hmm.
upload on your Garmin or your phone, these event courses change all the time right before the event. And so
Right.
if you can just have a source of truth on Strava, then our course map gets updated as soon as the event organizer updates it. And,
Right.
if you have it integrated with your Garmin, then any updates that are made to the course map are going to make their way to your Garmin as soon as you sync it. And so that's like a really minute implementation detail, but it matters a lot when you get to the part of the course where you're like, should I go left or right?
That is true. Especially I saw in the news that somewhere a group of a 5K people are routed in the wrong direction because somebody just played with the arrow to go somewhere else. It was in the news, I think, a couple of days ago. It was
Oh,
like a
nice.
funny news, but yeah, it happens, looks like.
Totally. I didn't see that, but I can totally imagine how that would happen.
Yeah, yeah. They end up going not 5K, maybe more than 5K. Hopefully they
Oh my
realize some
God.
point. Yeah, yeah. Um, for the use case with the timers, I know you
Mhm.
mentioned there are some friction about uploading timing and race results. I'm just for
Yeah.
movement, how you're solving that friction? Because I know there is sometimes there is a delay because I ran a half in Pittsburgh, in May. It took me a couple of days to get the results. Like, okay, I
Yeah.
know my Strava, how much I did, the actual timing. A couple of days it took. Are you solving that friction as well?
Yes, we absolutely are. So there are a couple of pain points that timers experience and
Hmm.
just like really high intensity moments.
Hmm.
And the first one is when you say, okay, no more people are going to be able to sign up for this event,
Mm.
and just like making sure that all of the participants are into their scoring software.
I
And
see.
so like going from registration to scoring is a big deal.
Oh,
And the
okay.
scoring software is what actually talks to like the timing mats and your bib, and is like how you get scored for the race. So
Right.
that's like the first piece of friction. And we
Hmm.
make it incredibly easy to get all of the participant data down from our servers and into your scoring software. So that's the first thing that we do.
Hmm.
Um, then the timer scores the event. They say, Kamal ran his marathon in 3 hours, and they give you your place. And the second piece of crunch time for timers is uploading results. And
Okay.
so oftentimes timers have to upload to a completely different platform or a different page than the
Hmm.
actual, like where the event lives. And
Hmm.
so we can really simplify things by just making it super easy to get to results from the event page. And
I
so
see.
we provide APIs and a really easy upload system for timers to be able to go from scoring to results. And so by just decreasing friction from registration to scoring and scoring
Hmm.
to results, we have built a super easy system for timers. And like it basically just leads to less experiences like the one you just described, where
Right.
it takes multiple days for results. And there's always going to be things like if the timing mats like lose power, they might have to revert to the cameras, and we're not going to be able to solve for that. But you know um, we can do a lot to decrease friction for things that we can control.
I see. I know you, I see that, within year or so or year and a half that, movement is, live, you have done more than 300,000 athletes, at least I see, or maybe it's maybe more number now, or more events that you have done. But have you seen that event organizers reducing that timeline, especially in the timers point of view?
Yes, we have worked extensively with many timers on this process, and like gone through test scenarios with
I
them
see.
to make sure that it integrates really well with like either chrono track or race day scoring from run sign up, or
Hmm.
there's other ones in track and field. And so yeah, we have done extensive testing and collected feedback from over a dozen timers to make sure that this system is
I
just
see.
as good as it can be. But we're always working on it. So I wouldn't say that it's perfect, but we're
Right,
we're
right.
always trying to make it better.
Great. I recently I saw in the news that you were able to fundraise for the pre-seed round. So congratulations on that.
Thanks.
I,
Thanks.
I
Yeah, incredibly fortunate.
no, that's congratulations. That's pretty big in a sense that you're trying to reinvent an industry which people think may be saturated or kind of no innovations can be done, but you're rethinking that. So congratulations on that. I will be curious, what is your experience on that? Because it's a tough market to sell in a sense that I'm reimagining, event registration in today's world.
You're right, but it was funny. It actually, I'm just being honest. I don't want to sound pretentious at all, but we were really fortunate to have a pretty easy time fundraising.
Oh,
And
great.
I think that it's just because, we were able to describe a clear set of problems that can be improved in an
Mhm.
existing market with event registrations that's very large, and it's
Mhm.
kind of surprisingly large from a venture capitalist perspective. And, if we're able to just do basic execution and serve event organizers and athletes well, and just make it really easy to sign up for these things and
Mhm.
see results and all the things we've been talking about, then we believe that we can have a really nice business. And, you know, like I said before, the registration piece and monetizing the same way that Run Sign Up and all of our competitors do through registrations is really like our short and medium term goal. Like our longer term goal is to support organizers and timers more broadly. And so, we have not started executing like in code on that goal yet,
Uh-huh.
but that's like we see many additional opportunities for expansion and to add value to organizers and timers by just making ourselves as helpful as possible to them. So like enabling an organizer to find a timer, or enabling the organizer, like I said before, to get a t-shirt vendor. Stuff like that is super
Yeah.
easy to add value.
Yeah. I know so far we are talking about things where you're a cyclist, you're an endurance athlete yourself, and Taylor is also in the similar. You started as a, going for a bike ride. Are there any stories during your journey in a year and a half? I think that's what movement is there. Like it doesn't look like it took a lot of effort. Some stories that you tried to, hey, this is an easy case that you would have solved for, but that's not that easy. Some what I call it, a fail forward or fail fast kind of an approach. That some examples you can share.
Um, Fell forward, fell fast. You mean like something we did at Movement that didn't work out, or what do you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It's a good question. I would say that I would say that, you know, so far we have been really blessed with this idea that our organizers have just told us exactly what they want,
Uh-huh.
and we have just been able to find product market fit and just build for those organizers as quickly as
I
we
see.
can.
I see.
So, most of the time, the features that we build are things that our organizers are just asking us for. And so
Mhm.
we ship it, and then within, a day, our athletes and our organizers are using it. And so I think that, when we were doing like ideation and before we launched, there were certainly things that we trialed and asked people about that did not work and that we did
Yeah.
not have conviction would have product market fit. But so far, we've just been having more feedback, more business than we can reasonably like do everything right away. And so
Uh-huh.
it's like, what's the most important thing? And we just do
I
that,
see.
and people use it right away. So we've been very fortunate so far to have found product market fit.
Oh, that's great to know. And because actually you have the clients who are telling you what's important to them. You're just
Yeah.
trying to keep up because you're saying that you have more to do than you can keep up, which is great situation to be in.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, honestly, our organizers are everything to us, and we've been incredibly fortunate to work with organizers who give us constructive feedback and tell us what they want. And I think that they know that we will do whatever it takes to hold the event experience online that they want. And
Mhm.
so that's, like last week, building a new pay what you can pricing model for Tracksmith, or if it's, building a new API for a large organizer, or if it's just, integrating all trails maps, we're going to do that stuff because we care deeply about these organizers and these events, and
Mhm.
we will do whatever it takes to help them be successful.
Oh, no, that's great. I read a couple of the testimonials that you post on your LinkedIn or some of the publicly available resources, but they all highly talked about why they choose Movement when they have other choices of other platforms in the market. So, and primarily of the team that you have, right? It's passionate about solving their challenges and making their event successful. That's why I think they all talk about.
Yeah, thanks. It's kind of funny, like as an engineer, you write the code and there's this moment before you deploy it when you just kind of hope that people will use it
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like it.
yeah.
And it's this kind of magical, I mean, it really is, I think the most fulfilling thing for me personally is just, you write something and then people like it. Like the routes feature you were just talking about was something I was able to work on,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
we called it routes from here or ephemeral routes.
Oh, okay,
That was
okay.
another one of those experiences where it's just like, wow, people really use this, but we spent all this time working on it and we thought it would be cool, but then when you're actually able to provide value to people
Yeah.
and it helps them get stoked on like the outdoors and athletics, then that's just a magical thing to spend your career doing.
No, that's awesome. How is your feedback loop? Is it like you working on something this week, you can get the feedback from the events of the weekend? Is that kind of a feedback loop you have?
Yeah, I mean, we provide really high levels of service for our event organizers. So,
Okay.
with larger event organizers, we are in a Slack channel with them.
Ah,
So they
okay.
will let us know if they're using Slack,
I see.
all of our event organizers have my personal phone number. And so they will
Okay.
text me all the time. And this is what I love doing. And so we are constantly talking about stuff with them. So yeah, the feedback loop is, sometimes organizers will send us emails or text messages, or they have a million ways to get in touch with us to make
Mhm.
it really easy. And then we are upfront with them about exactly when we can accomplish these things.
I see.
And then we
Okay.
just do it as fast as we can.
That's great. No, that's good to know. I mean, that's kind of the communication that you have, and you set the expectation when you're getting to them and in solving their whatever challenges they have or improvements they want to see in the platform. That's great. Now let's talk about going beyond today. I
Mhm.
know you mentioned a couple of the use cases you not started working on it, but you want to work on it as you solve it in the ecosystem. But from where you sit today, Zach, what do you see where this industry is heading?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I see two trends. The first is, and this one is going to sound like not that interesting, but it's true, is that registrations are more and more mobile first. So
Hmm.
everyone is signing up on their phones.
Right.
And like our own data shows that over 70% of our signups happen on iOS or Android.
Oh,
And so
wow.
it is crazy to me that most registration platforms do not work very well on mobile. And they do not support things like Apple Pay and Google Pay and text to pay. And
Mhm.
so it's costing organizers signups by not having really awesome mobile presence. And so that's the first trend, is just making it super easy for athletes to sign up on mobile.
Mhm.
The second trend that is something that might be less obvious is optimizing for efficiency and just a squeeze on costs. And
Hmm.
so I don't think I don't think you talked about this with Bob, but there's this bill that is been passed that's coming into effect in California on July 1 called
Oh, okay.
SB 478.
Okay.
And what it means is that you cannot hide service fees of any kind until checkout. And so like when you are actually going to movement.cc or ultra sign up or run sign up or bike reg, like and other industries also, like if you're
Mhm.
just buying a stadium ticket,
Yeah.
um, the entire price must be shown to you. They cannot just add service fees on at checkout. And so the reason that that really matters is because it's going to become much more obvious to everyone, organizers and athletes included,
Mhm.
like just how high some of these platform service fees are. And so the cost in the last 5 years of putting on events has gone way up.
Mhm.
And as a result, the ticket price of going to events has also gone up. And
Yeah.
so I think organizers are going to increasingly now with this law want to go to a solution where the service fees are low and where like they're able to just get like every single registration and donation they can. And so I think that platforms that have higher fees may now suffer more because those higher fees are going to be much more apparent to everyone in a
I
way that
see.
they weren't before this law.
So do you see that the trend would be to flip the cost structure from service fee to the actual fee? Because I think if you want to keep the same cost, right? Like if I had to go
So
for, like if I had to go for a Taylor Swift ticket, I know exactly what you mean. At the checkout, I
it's
get
painful.
almost double.
Yeah,
It's very
right.
painful.
It's painful.
Like, are you going to offload it at the upfront and then the service fee can reduce down, or you think that's why the industry would shift to, or you have to make sure that the service fee is very transparent to the end user?
Are you suggesting like giving the service fee to the organizer itself, like instead of to the athlete? Or I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking.
So if I'm an athlete, I'm registering for an event. So the event
Uh-huh.
cost me say $100,
Sure.
and the service fee is say $106, right? Or $107 at checkout.
Mhm.
Now, that $7 is not really transparent to the end user. It's just a service fee,
Yeah.
or right. So you're saying that the law would require the event organizers to make sure that what that $7 gives to the athletes, or make it
Yeah.
very transparent.
Yeah.
Um, did you see that it can be where that the $100 will become $105 and say $2 because you're reducing the service fee in a sense, but it apparently looks
Oh,
like, is that where the industry is trending, or you think that
that's a good
the cost
question.
cost remains the same for
I
the
see.
end user?
Yeah. You're asking like if there might be a race to the bottom with service fees.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I don't know that I know. I think that's a really good question, and I don't think that that would necessarily be such a bad outcome.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do think that, organizers will probably put pressure on these event registration platforms to either decrease their fee or they'll just move their business. And
I see.
so these platforms will have to decide if they, want to maintain their existing business model or if they're willing to move now that their high service fees are, just more out in the open. I think it's a great question.
Yeah, but at Movement, how you're thinking through this like
Yeah.
regulation?
So we're just going to display the entire service fee, and we
I
have
see.
nothing to hide.
Right.
We like I said have industry leading low service fees of $1 plus 6%, which
Hmm.
is run sign up space fee also.
Uh,
And so we're not embarrassed to say, listen, we need to keep our lights on, so we're going to add 6% plus $1. Like that's what allows us to host this platform and to make all this awesome technology for organizers and athletes. And we're not going to charge exorbitant service fees to anyone, but we're also not embarrassed about what we have to do to keep our lights on. We're not selling anyone's data. We're not selling ads. We're not doing weird stuff with subscriptions. We just add this small service fee, and then that's how we are able to keep working on this.
yeah. So one curious question, I'm not sure if you're comfortable sharing it, but um, this is an industry standard you adapted, dollar plus 6%, right? As you are
Mhm.
scaling Movement to more and
Yeah.
more athletes and events, does it really keep up the light if you do see the breakdown? Because I guess if you're a mobile first, you probably have a good, upward trending infra cost that you have to support the whole platform.
Oh,
Does it support keeping the lights on?
I think so.
It
I
does.
think
Okay.
so. I think it's actually a really good business. Yeah, I mean, from a actual compute, like software engineering
I
perspective,
mean, you have the people cost
our
too, but I'm talking about overall cost of running the business. Does the dollar plus 6% fee kind of give you kind of the profit margin that you want to see?
yeah, I think so.
It does. Okay.
The base Stripe fees, which we use Stripe for our payment processing, are
Yeah.
publicly available. And so I think that they charge 29 cents plus 2.9%, and then they give you a break if you do more. And
Oh,
so,
okay. Okay.
we're making 70 cents plus 3%, and then we also have to pay for tax collection and remittance,
I see.
and a couple other things. But yeah, I mean, it only works at scale, but our
Right,
profit
right.
margins also go up because we're able to negotiate with the credit card provider at higher scale. And so,
I see.
our margins are like the worst now that they ever will be.
Because as you're scaling up, right, right.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
we're still, we're still able to make money. So that's a good thing. We're not actually losing money.
That's awesome. That's great. We cannot wrap up our conversation without talking about AI. So I'll be curious, like where you stand, and you are being Strava, you developed a lot of APIs, and you're thinking about the ecosystem to a lot of technology integrations. Um, how you think that AI can, be a catalyst for movement or a similar industry?
Sure. Yeah. It's funny that you're asking this because like consistent feedback that I got when I went to go raise money for Movement was
Yeah.
that we were in the very small minority, like 10% of companies that did not talk about AI at all when we were raising.
Oh,
And
wow.
I do think that like from a business perspective, like I don't think that AI is ever going to replace the joy that you and I experience going to a race.
Yep.
And I don't think that, AI will have a product that like completely, ever does anything like the New York City Marathon, where like we would completely overhaul like the New York City Marathon because AI is there. And I
Uh,
actually really like that about the industry. That said, I do think that there are, just like any tool, I think that we can leverage AI to help organizers host really great events. And so there are some really simple use cases. Like one of our engineers, Julia Jashka, our founding engineer,
mhm.
she actually led the AI efforts recently at Strava before she came to Movement.
I
And
see.
so, we could, and I don't know if Strava's announced those features, but like we can use AI to help you write engaging emails, for example. We
Hmm.
can use AI to suggest pricing to you based
Mhm.
on, I mean, maybe we don't even need to use AI for that though. Like, we could use AI to help you write an engaging description and to potentially make suggestions on when you should open registration and when you should communicate to, volunteers and organizers and all the rest of it. But,
Mhm.
at the same time, I don't want to just like start with a solution, which is AI for a problem that doesn't exist. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think that I see obvious uses for AI in content generation, to just like make it easier to like build beautiful event pages and send
Yeah.
communications. But I don't see AI as doing like a ton of the brunt work for like actually holding an awesome event. And so yeah, I see the core of our business as not being super focused on AI,
Mhm.
but it's just doing really basic and high level execution on features that event organizers are going to love and athletes are going to love.
Great, great. No, that's good to know. Because you can see, because you're solving the problems first and with the organizer. So you see where AI can actually add value versus can be a detractor, not can kind of add more value to them. So that's good perspective. Thanks for sharing. Well, it was great chatting with you, Zach. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for sharing the story of starting movement and the journey so far.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and congrats on the podcast. I really enjoyed the first couple episodes, so congrats to you.
Thank you. That's good to know.